Hey, what's happening? How are you doing today? Thank you so much for being here. I am Chris, and this is the world famous Cool Cars with Chris. Check that out. And on today's fantastic episode, we're going full on EV mode. Yes, EV talk today. And especially, I remember a time a few years ago, a Tesla did something crazy right here in San Diego. You'll hear about that on this episode. Plus, major companies like the American car companies, German car companies, well, they're pulling back on their EV projects. Why are they doing that? At the same time, China is ramping up their EV projects. You hear about that. And of course, topping it off, we're talking the reality of range anxiety. Gas is crazy high as I record this episode right now. And people maybe want to buy electric cars, but sometimes people want to feel the thrill and the excitement of having a gas-powered cars. So, car companies like BMW are making EV cars that sound and feel a little bit like an actual gas-powered car. Check that out. And today's fantastic episode is brought to you by my company, Podtastic Audio. Hey, look, I make this look easy. Podcasting is fun. It can be for everyone. If you're thinking about starting a show for yourself or your business, well, check this out. I can help you out. I'll handle all of the production for you. All you have to do is show up and do the easy part. I'll do the hard part and take care of everything else. End to end. Podcasting made easy, made for you. Simple, easy. Let's do this. If you're serious about starting a show, down below in the show notes of this episode, there's a special link. Click that link. It'll get you started. And that way I can know how to best serve you for your show. And just because you decided to fill out the form and actually are thinking about doing a podcast, as my gift to you, I'm giving you a copy of my book, The Podtastic Playbook, just for filling out the form. Whether you work with me or not, I think podcasting should be for everybody, and that way I'm here to help you. And with that, let's go. All right, we are back with the world famous Cool Cars with Chris. Of course, the world famous Courage himself. How you doing today, buddy?
Good, man. I'm doing good. Back in the situation here. I know we had a chance to catch up today as well, and so always good to talk about some cars.
Man, seeing face to face, man. Cool Cars with Chris is live, man. During the rain of all places, man. Being in the rain. It's one thing. If you had a cool car with like low profile tires, especially like summer tires, you do not want to take that car out in the rain, especially if it's low. There's puddles and it floods. Forget it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was cool to be out. It was cool to see the type of folks that were still braving it in the rain. But, if you're on any situation of it, I just think about the fact of those tires that I just got for those performance or those drag radial tires that I got. Like they specifically say, with their wet rating to not use them, really with any type of rain. And so in a safe environment, I'd be curious to see just how bad it really would be. But it's definitely, we got a pretty big downpour today. So, if you were on anything that's low tread wear, you definitely wanted to make sure you stayed home.
Yeah, and I wonder if your car sits really low to the ground, because some places I've seen a lot of flooding. And I know you obviously should never, ever go into across a lake. You think it's like shallow enough? Because I think if you get how many inches above your door, your car is dead. There's a certain level where your car is 6 inches of water or something like that, where your car is, especially
above your door line.
Yeah. I think especially if it's a lowered car, forget it. You're done. You're dead in the water. Although I did see that cool Tesla video years ago in the big flooding here in San Diego. Do you see the one where the Tesla full on submarine mode and it went through this big giant puddle and the wave of the water went over the car? The car was literally underwater for a second or whatever, and it came out the other side.
I never saw that.
It happened. It was filmed in downtown San Diego. Big flooding. I forget how many years ago it was. Big, massive floods. This is probably the year when the cars were in the sewers and getting pushed down the drain, flooding like crazy. San Diego's on the map for being flooded out. It was during that storm that somebody was in a high rise in San Diego downtown, flooded streets, and a Tesla went. I think it was a Model 3. It might have been. And it went into the puddle where it says flooded, do not enter. He went there anyways. And it went through the water and it just pushed and pushed. And it was full on like, almost like a dolphin, like going into the water, like their head kind of skimming the water kind of look,
Like all you saw was like the roof line pretty much.
And the water kind of sheening off the back for a second, as they went over the hood and over the roof. And then it came out the other side and kept on going.
That's pretty crazy. I mean, I wonder if that guy driving for sure, or whoever was driving was like, if he knew or if he'd done this before or this was his first experiment. But that would have been an interesting thing to see.
I got to get my Uber delivered,
Yeah, I got stuff to do, and this rainstorm is not going to hinder me.
Well, I wonder though too, as you've hit the puddle like that, because I've hit in big puddles before in different vehicles, and the water just like flashes over your hood and your windshield. You can't see nothing. So you're going through like that. You can't see anything because you are literally just a wall of water, just like right in front of your windshield, and you're just cruising along, hoping to God there's nothing on the other side of you as you're driving.
Jesus, take the wheel moment.
Because literally you will slam right into somebody because you don't even know, unless, I'm sure Tesla has these cool features where they have like, different sensors and things like that. But
I wonder how they would react. Yeah, how they would be reacting when you're surrounded by water, because they are like, things that'll probably pick up like just reflections and things in the water that might make it seem like there's things in the way when they're not. But that'd be an interesting thing to see, like how those sensors and things will be. Like, I wonder if he was just in the car and all you heard were just beeps and
I'm sure
all kinds of alerts.
It was like alarms going off left and right, and he just like, screw it, I'm going for it. Now, the question I have is, does it have some kind of like override, like a brake assist, or almost the way kind of how like, traction control works, where it kicks into brakes? Does it do something like that? Well, you're saying, screw it, I'm going through this right now. Does Tesla
and you're just like fighting it? Yeah.
Tesla like, we're hitting the brakes right now, because if you hit the brakes and you're literally underwater, or at least up to your door in water. I think it must have been up to like a door handle ish, somewhere in there. They get that kind of water, got hit over the thing. I wonder about that. But speaking of EVs, Courage's EV take. What you got today, buddy?
Yeah, so I was listening to a couple of different pods and some different things.
There are
lately.
other podcasts out there?
There are other podcasts.
No way.
Every once in a while indulge in other podcasts.
How dare you, man? Traitor.
I do indulge in this one every Monday, though. So
okay, there we go.
But nonetheless, it was something I thought was interesting that I want to obviously get your take on too. Is we talk about EVs and how they kind of have their place in the market. They do some things very great. I feel like that's undeniable. They have room for improvement in a lot of areas, and there's
like a
things
gas
that
engine, yeah.
We have the solution for them to help it out. But I think that at the end of the day, like, there's a consumer market for them, and there's people that swear by their EVs. And one thing that really has stood out is that a lot of American companies are, and not even just American companies, there's some German companies as well and things like that have started to shelve their EV projects that they seem pretty into the last, probably the last 2 years prior to this.
Well, just wait until, gas is pretty high right now. I would think that people would want to buy an EV right now, with gas being, $6, $8, whatever it is where you're at,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, not to derail on that, but I was filling up my wife's car, the M35, and I think that car has about a 16, 17 gallon tank or something like that. And, I was at my usual pump that I go to right down the street, and I went in to go grab something in the store and just let it pump, because it was, she pretty much like had it all the way down. So it needed a full tank. And I came back and it was being pretty slow. It only had gotten up to 10 gallons, but it was at, I think, $75 or something at 10 gallons. And I was like, this is about to be close to $100 fill up right now. And it's already taken it this long to get to this point. I was like, forget it. I just don't even feel like paying the extra 25, and 30 bucks right now.
It was on E, right? It was on EE, right? Like low as
No,
it goes.
it was a little bit above the quarter tank. A little bit below quarter tank.
Well, that's a first, because I've never seen any woman ever, hey, fill my car up. It's never been above quarter tank.
It's never been, yeah. Yeah, well, luckily we really don't drive this. It's like really just city driving, like around here, like 5 to 10 mile stretches. And so, but it got to a point where I was like, okay, we got to go get some gas. And yeah, gas prices are, they're one of the things where it's like, we're going to get it regardless. But you do start to kind of realize, especially when you have a larger tank in a car, like the ends tank is so small that really like filling it up really
Yeah,
doesn't
it's like
hurt
a 10 gallon or
regardless.
something.
Like 12.
12. Wow.
It's,
That's like a couple gas cans right there.
yeah, you don't even just carry things around with you. Yeah, I even have a 5 gallon little gas can like that I actually use to fill up the mini bike, which still got some things to work on that old Frankenstein thing. But
Evil Knievel.
yeah,
Loving it.
But yeah, I mean, just gas is a factor right now. People are, like you said, potentially looking to make that a decision to maybe have like an EV just if they're commuting a lot and they don't want to have to deal with it. But, really just curious to your take on, does it make sense? Does it feel sort of short-sighted in your opinion if, companies are saying, well, even though there might be a slight uptick right now in EVs, we don't see the long term in it right now because a lot of people are not really buying the EVs that we've invested all this money into. So we're gonna shelve the projects we were already gonna build. While on the other hand, you have a lot of these Chinese companies and other companies that are literally taking EVs to the next level. And, do we put ourselves in a situation where we're just not going to be ready when we do start to have these switchovers and now we're just caught just kind of hanging out while all of our lunch is getting eaten by all of these companies that are saying, hey, we know it's coming down the road, like we're going to invest in it and make it happen now and then be ready for the future. I'm just curious if you feel like it's the right move for companies to say, if we're not getting the immediate benefit right now, we're not going to invest in it.
Well, here's the problem, I think. How long have like the general population, like general consumers, how long do you think the EV car itself has kind of been basically in the current form it is today? Like how many years has it been on the market for people to buy?
Well, you had some early examples, like probably, you've had like one-offs here. I
Tesla
get
was
where
like
you're going with the question.
2010 or something like that.
That was, I would say like late, really like
but
early 2010.
But that was still a one-off. I would say it's still a one-off because the Tesla, the Model S or what's the one that's
well, they had the Roadster initially.
What's their generic flagship car? Is that like
that was the S? Okay, yeah, Model S.
I think that was like 2010, 2012, something like that. It's been a long time, but I think after that, they're not the only ones in town anymore. There are other companies, and even Tesla themselves have got like cheaper versions. So I would say when I'm say like general public kind of car, I would say probably in the, not the rich person's electric car version, but like more of like a regular person's electric car. When those cars kind of hit the market, was that 2020 before 2020?
Well, because you did have the Model S that came out in 2012. I'm just reading up here. The Model S initially was available 2 trims, base model, which was $60,000, but in 2012 money, and then you had like the performance variants that kind of went up from there. And so
quite $100,000 probably.
Yeah, like with inflation and things, you're looking at 70-80 grand car, and to the general populace, like that's not just a car that you're just jumping into. So. Yeah, I guess really your benchmark really I think would be when you were getting things like the Model 3. And I'm curious.
But still Tesla. I'm saying like other car companies that are, because Tesla's never gonna not do EVs. So I don't think it really count. We're talking about car companies here that make car like regular gas powered cars, and now they jumped into the EV game. At what point did that happen?
I'm curious, like, because what my mind goes to the Nissan Leaf. Actually, I'm curious.
Oh, that's probably around the same time. Yeah, but that was like a total one-off. They didn't make a bunch of those. Like it was only one car. I don't think it was like they had a bunch of EV cars. Like have today. I think what we have today.
That was a bit more of an experiment for them,
right? If you want to buy it, great. If you don't want to buy it, great. Other cars to buy too. But I think today almost every car company has got like EV versions in their lineup. Some have more than others. I don't think other than Tesla and like Rivian and what's the other one, Lucid, companies like that, I don't think they count. I'm thinking companies that originally were, gas powered companies. They brought in some EVs to their fleet. How many EVs did they bring in? And those EVs probably, they did okay when gas is crazy high, people buy them. But when it's like, coming back down, maybe people like switch back over to gas powered. Maybe, there's a lot of variables. I think, like I said, it's all about that. What I call it, it was you couldn't go so far on an EV car because you're stressed out because you worried about, the range anxiety. That's what I call it, range anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big fear too, I think. But I was kind of wondering, how many years have we had like all these other car companies hit the market with their EVs? Like you got Kia, you got Hyundai's got some, Ford's got some. I think they all have got them. I don't think there's a company out there that does not have any EVs in their lineup.
Yeah, and that point is I see the conclusion you're getting to, and like that point of where it was like, I don't want to say critical mass, but where it was more commonplace to have all these brands was definitely probably a little closer to like 2015, and like. I'm even looking like the
10 years, maybe.
Yeah, the last 10 years or so, because I was looking like a couple of like more of like, again, the experimental car, like the Leaf, I don't know if you remember the original i3, the i3 and the i8, like both of those were like around 2012, 2013 timeframe. And so that was when it was like, we knew that the companies were diving into it, but it wasn't as if like, every manufacturer had something in their fleet where it like fit this kind of niche of EV cars. But yeah, I mean, to that point, like I said, I think you're right. Around like a decade or so is probably like the time frame where EVs were regular space amongst all of the other gas powered cars, for sure.
And so that being said, you're saying now that some of these car companies are actually pulling back their EV production. It's probably the numbers. If you look at how many. Okay, first off, if you're a car manufacturer, you know how long it takes to like retool a factory to pump out a particular type of car, and especially an EV car. I don't think they use the same frame and chassis as. They may look the same, maybe the same body, maybe, but I don't think that the frame has got to be different. The chassis got to be different. I don't think you're whatever. Like, first off, is there a electric version of your car, the Elantra?
There is a hybrid version, but not a full EV.
Okay.
Elantra. And
okay, so full EV would be like the frame is battery and it's like motors and every wheel kind of deal, or at least two motors, or however they do it. Kind of thing. But I think the body itself is just slapped on, like that's why.
Yeah, and that's to that point. Like the Kona has like a full EV version of the Kona, but then they have the different Kona versions that aren't EV. And yeah, to your point, like you're usually supporting like, the weight of like these massive battery panels that have to go in. And so there's for sure different chassis construction to accommodate for the fact of, this car weighs so much more because of its batteries versus like a gasoline car, and just distribution of weight and all of that too. So yeah,
I don't think they come out the same factory. They got these different factories, right? Maybe
no, I agree. Yeah.
Maybe the body does, maybe like the, the radio knobs and that kind of crap. But I think like the actual, like the part that matters, the battery, the frame and all that stuff, it's got to be either in a different factory, built somewhere else, shipped over. Maybe it's made somewhere else and then brought. Well,
a lot of times the batteries themselves are manufactured by somebody like totally different. Like,
of course,
Tesla did start to manufacture their own batteries, but I'm air quoting over here because there's still like big players in the battery space like CATL and Samsung and different things like that. Like, they still kind of, because of just their expertise in batteries, like they probably still have some hand or a role in those batteries that are said made by Tesla now. But a lot of times earlier on, at least, those batteries were really coming from other manufacturers and just getting adopted to whatever platform they were going in. So to your point, though, that's like, again, that's a totally different construction method to a gas powered car. And you do have to completely retool a factory to be able to build a different car than you would be building. We do know about it all the time where they say like, certain cars in Michigan and Detroit, were built at certain factories, and like they actually shipped certain cars actually overseas, or well, not overseas, but they were built in Canada in certain factories. Like certain factories are tooled to build certain cars, even in like in the same manufacturer's lineup. So you're talking like two different technologies of car, gasoline power versus EV. That's going to be a complete changeover for sure.
And I'm sure it's not cheap. And I'm sure if they're looking at their books and they're seeing, the sales has got to be like, maybe it's like one EV for every 5, or 5 or 4, maybe gas powered cars of equivalent price range, and then maybe looking at the bean counters or looking at that, and they're like, well, gosh, I don't know if we want, I don't know, maybe we should hold back or whatever. And I think too is that they can do that because a company like Tesla or Lucid or Rivian, they can't do that. They can't say, well, let's just lean into our gas cars because they don't have any. Yeah. Where American car companies and other car companies that do kind of both, they can pull back because they have other means of transportation they sell you, So it's not just one flavor. They got other things they can sell you. But I don't know, man. EVs are fun. They're fine. They're great. Listen, they're fast. They're fun. Although for some reason, I don't know what this is. I don't know if you noticed this too or not. On the freeway, every time I get on the freeway, I'm driving behind a slow Tesla. Now, why is that?
You either get a very slow Tesla or a very aggressive Tesla. Like there's like no real like in between.
I don't know, man. Lately there've been a lot of slow Tesla. Now is this thing going to like lip mode on the freeway or something like that? Is it going like battery saving mode or something?
No, they've got range anxiety and they're trying to.
I guess so. That must be what it is because every time, even in my work truck, which is supposed to go 55, wink, wink, yeah, 55, I'm passing them.
You're having to go around.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what is going on with these guys? I noticed between Teslas. I mean, not so much on the other EVs, probably because I don't really notice. The other ones kind of look like cars. It could be either or, so I can't really tell. But at least with a Tesla, it's an EV, Mm-hmm. And so, but I've noticed them are going really slow lately. I don't know what's going on with that.
The ones what I really commend is the Germans and their cars, like the BMWs and the Audis, even Mercedes. Like, I mean, Mercedes is doing some interesting things with like their EQ line, which is, that's definitely more of like their futuristic EVs where you can pretty much tell that those are EVs. But BMW particularly is interesting because like they've really, and one actually thing that's kind of related to this is that they teased a new i3. We were talking about the original i3, but they teased a new version of the i3 that basically is going to kind of serve as like the 3 Series lineup of the car. So it's no longer kind of like this weird hatchbacky kind of thing. Like it's going to really just be like, like a regular 3 Series, but and an EV version of that. And then they might potentially use that to build off of for like a gas-powered 3 Series. But BMW has found a really good way to make their EVs just feel like regular cars. Like they
with the gas pedal and like an actual like tachometer that makes noise and things like that.
No, I just mean like their design, like, just their design in general.
Oh,
like
okay.
They have like small cues that they're EVs, but they never really like made them like this has to stand out as to show everybody that I'm an EV. They kind of just took their basic like design of a sedan and just made it into an EV. That was, I feel like, why a lot of people like the Ford Lightning a lot, because
that's why I liked it.
It just looked like a regular truck.
That's why I was considering buying one. When it first got announced, I was like, listen, I'm not a big EV guy, but this would be the EV I'd buy because it virtually is the same truck I have, just electric, or whatever. But I heard a lot of bad things about that truck. I heard the towing was like not what it said it was going to do. I heard range anxiety, it was like by half or whatever.
Dude. One thing on towing, though, this isn't related to these. I was on a drive up to Reno a couple of weekends ago. Guess what I saw towing a toy hauler RV going up into the mountains.
Okay, let me guess. Was it a truck or SUV?
It was a truck.
Was it like a Toyota Tacoma?
No, it was an EV. I'll give you a bigger hint. Nope.
The Cybertruck.
I saw a Cybertruck hauling a big toy hauler EV towards like.
I think they can tow. I think they are rated for like, I don't know how many pounds.
Oh yeah, they 100% are. It's just that I have never seen anybody do it, like outside of like kind of demonstrating that they were towing stuff, but like just to see like a regular like unironic situation of somebody towing, like. That was the first time I've ever seen that. Like both me and my wife were like taken aback because like I've never seen anybody doing it.
Did it make you feel like the first time you saw one in person?
Yeah, it was like
wow, look at that thing.
It was like in a new light. Like, I'm actually seeing like, an EV truck do what an EV truck I guess is supposed to do. It's like towing something. Like it was an interesting experience.
The question is how much range you got towing.
Yeah, he had just left from charging probably, and
he's on the next charging station up the road.
He's planning out like his next charging.
Now, I wonder if that truck. I'm sure the Tesla is in that truck too. I'm sure it tells you like, "Hey, idiot, we got to get juice real soon here. Like, pull over the next whatever." I'm sure it kind of maps it, like auto maps it.
I've rented a couple of Model 3s, that was a feature that I really like. I rented a couple Model 3s and drove out to like Palm Desert, and like actually I think I went all the way out to Arizona in one of them. And there was again, range anxiety was still a thing because there's certain areas going towards like Arizona and Palm Desert where you have Reno. long stretches of no EV charging. And so one of the places I was going to was I basically had to charge fully in the city as I was coming into Palm Desert because I would need the juice to get to where I was going and get back to Palm Desert to charge again. If I was at like say half percentage and I tried to do it, like I would get stuck somewhere in between, and there was no charging station. So, but the map will tell you when you put in your destination, it plans your route around where you'll need to charge to make sure you have the range you need.
And it does that like automatically. You have to like program that. It automatically says, "Hey, this is the route you got to go."
Yeah, it'll let you know like if your percentage is going to drop below, a certain percentage, like it'll say like you need to charge here and then continue on to like your either your next destination or your next charge to keep you like in the flow. Like it wouldn't let you, it basically the navigation would say like if you were going to try and navigate here without charging, it would show you the negative percentage if you were going to be like depleting your battery, which obviously you don't want to do. So I'm sure like the other EVs do it, but I did really like that feature in both the Model 3s that I drove, recently for sure. I say recently, it was like 2 years ago, but that was a real thought out feature that I was glad that they had because it sort of alleviates the range anxiety, except for the fact that you now have to plan for an extra, say 15, 20, maybe even 30 minutes to charge the car.
I ain't got time for that, dude. I gotta go, man. I got place to be. My gosh, I was running all around town today. Imagine if I had range anxiety, be like, my gosh, I'm late for this, late for that. So, I mean, listen, I think EVs are fine. They're fine for somebody that doesn't want to ride the bus or take an Uber. They're like a step above that.
That's talk about some low hanging fruit.
I mean, it's literally a step above riding the bus.
Because like we have a solution for you. Like
they should literally put EV ads in back of like bus seats, like as a brochure.
You could be doing something better than this right now.
You hate riding this bus right now? Guess what we have for you? And it charges your phone for you while you ride. And you just like the bus here, you can put autopilot and let it drive for you. Great.
Yeah.
Like I said, people buy EVs literally. Okay, first off, I think EVs are really popular here in Southern California, and I'll tell you why. It's because we're so spread out. We are very spread out here. And you need a car. Like people, like in New York City, for example, I was in New York City, and people all take the subway. They call it the train, but the subway, it's the same damn thing. And they take it all over the place, and they ride all over the place. That's all they do. Maybe taxi here and there, but it's all like that kind of stuff. And so here, we don't have that. I mean, there's kind of public transportation, the buses, kind of, but it's a big pain. It's not the same. It's not the same as riding the train in New York City. And so it's a challenge.
To have something to just jump in, like, to go, a little short distance here and there. Yeah. Like,
but in New York City, it goes everywhere. And when I went to New York City, you pay a certain fee, you get into the network, like the subway network, and you can take the train anywhere. As long as you don't leave the subway network, like get out to the street, you can ride it anywhere you want, anywhere it goes. We're talking up north, down south, like everywhere. And people do it all the time. And it's always running, I think, 24/7, I think. And so they're pretty fast, too. Don't stand close to them. That thing will kill you because they're like going like 80 miles an hour flying through there. But here, I don't think we have a San Diego trolley, and we got a few things here and there. But if you live in
Bay Area's network is, up north is pretty fleshed out. Like BART, I took that a lot in high school and everything.
Oh, so you figured it out though. So it's pretty easy to figure out the system and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's definitely, trolley is kind of, the San Diego trolley is kind of starting to get there because there was a lot of sections of San Diego that you couldn't make it to because the trolley just didn't go to.
Or you could take a bus. You could jump from one to the other.
Yeah, which
it sucks. And then you got to know the schedule of the bus, and you got to know the different lines, like the blue line, the green line, whatever line it is. Yeah. Where does it go? Different kind of thing. And then you're spending like range anxiety. You're talking spending your whole morning figuring out like how many hours does it take me to get to work. Like when I had to get to work and I couldn't use my truck because of the parking situation here, I was taking an Uber to work or get Uber back or ride back and that kind of stuff. It did get expensive, let me tell you.
Because you did, don't you? Or you said you're like near like Coronado area. For anybody who knows, like San Diego.
Well, yeah. So to downtown every day. I think it was like $50 a ride, maybe $40 a ride one way, and then doing that every day for work, and then that's like a car payment right there.
Yeah,
you add it all up, whatever. So, but I definitely can see people get used to that. Just getting ordering an Uber and just like being on your phone all the way to work and just doing nothing, or maybe talking to the guy or whatever kind of stuff. It gets very addictive. I can see it. It does get very expensive. But that being said, like I think that having an EV gives you the luxury of having transportation. That's really what it is. It's just transportation.
Bare minimum of like what's your benefit of this is like you have transportation of your own.
And you get cool features like all the cool gadgets and bells and whistles and all the cool electronic stuff and the sensors and the cameras. You get all that cool stuff, right? But I don't think. I mean, okay, I guess you get the throttle of response and it does have a rocket ship feel to it when you step on the gas. I get that. The party trick of an EV, super cool. I get it. But I just think that like, I don't know. I was driving my car.
If you get any type of more enjoyment than just getting you from point A to point B, a lot of times you need something more than what an EV can offer. Like, yeah. Sometimes it can do that. Like, again, the acceleration party trick is fun sometimes. Like, and to be totally honest as well, like, I mean, I feel like in the off-road space, like I've said it before that I do actually kind of see the appeal of, EV trucks and EV SUVs from that perspective.
But if you're going to the middle of nowhere, if you're going out in the middle of nowhere, going hunting or whatever, like you're going to the hills, like, right? Middle of nowhere. Like range anxiety becomes another level.
It
becomes like range heart attack.
Yeah.
Because you're going to like some of these places and people go camping and hiking and like that's the whole thing. Jeep's whole thing is like, we can go anywhere kind of deal,
And you can't even like with a Jeep, like you can be one of those guys that carry like the Terry can gas tanks like along your frame. It's like you can't carry a EV charger on the back end.
Carry a generator or whatever. But I don't. Does this even work? If you took a regular like camping generator and you like ran gas, can you even charge your car off it?
No, like just imagine if that little battery powered thing that I brought when we went out to Willow Springs. Yeah, you plug your. Obviously, you can't because there's like this whole like extension that you have to put onto that, and the charging amperage, like you can't even get anywhere close to that. So yeah, like that's the part of it where like if you're in, you can do like some light camping at like a campground that's maybe like, say an hour outside of the city or something of that sort. Maybe, I mean, maybe that's even a stretch, but if you're really in like a remote area and you just so happen to miscalculate things with your range, like that could be a pretty bad situation.
Well, a lot of them now are doing those range extenders, which is like a little gas powered motor on the car. It just powers the generator. It doesn't even like you run a motor for the car. It just runs a generator to charge the battery, which is really what you need.
Which was and that was kind of how the Prius, like, that, and I think it probably is still how the Prius is that like the battery is like, or the engine is just a generator and it uses that to, generate the battery power, but the drive is still from EVs. And I guess really just at the end of the day, I think I agree that like there's so much that needs to still improve to really kind of make EVs, really a dominant, I guess, transportation method, but also like, you just don't get the same passion that you get from, if you're into that, like if you really just don't care, like, about driving. And again, you just want to go point A to point B, like, yeah, EVs do it, but there's other elements that they can't fulfill. But I think too, though, is that it's going to be an interesting situation. Like to that original point is if the companies themselves are not looking to innovate the way that they already had planned to innovate before, if these American companies and some of these other companies are deciding not to innovate, even though the sales aren't there, we're probably going to be driving BYDs and Zeekers around. I think you're talking about that.
I think those cars look amazing in the Chinese EV market. They've got some really cool tech cars coming out, or actually are out right now. The problem is we can't get them. You can't get them in the United States. I don't know how you get them. There's got to be like tariff. There's so much tariffs on that it might as well buy like a Ferrari or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's ridiculous. So
Gonna be a real niche type thing.
Yeah, almost like trying to get like a special GTR from Japan over here. If you're filling within the window of whatever, 25 years, whatever it is. Yeah. And I think that I seen some of those the Zeekr or whatever it was. I saw that thing. It looks amazing. Like features that are probably 10 years ahead of anything here. Like crazy features. Like, no way. And it's like price. Like, I was looking at the price of the thing. It was like 50 grand, which is like crazy. Because something like that here would cost like 150 grand.
That's one thing that comes to mind, and not to belabor this, but you saying that just kind of made me think of something where, and I think it's just like our human nature, where it's like when we see an opportunity, or we see like, maybe somebody else that might succeed in something, we're like, oh, we got to figure out how to do the same thing. But maybe we just let them have it. Like, if the Chinese companies are gonna, like, as far ahead as they probably already are with a lot of these technologies in EV, and not to say that we just don't do anything, but maybe let them like just run that race, and we do whatever it is that we're doing. But maybe we don't necessarily have to be in a direct competition of, we got to catch up to what they're doing over there in the EV space. Like, they're building some cool stuff. BYD's got cars that jump now, and
Knight Rider, huh?
Yeah, like, all these like Knight Rider, James Bond type features with these EVs. And, to be honest, like, they kind of need that, because other than that, what else do they got going for them in the automotive space?
Yeah, but like I said, I don't know how you get them here. It sounds great, but how you even get them here to us? The American companies are like, well, who cares? They can't get them here, so what do we care?
That's their gating item right now. Is like, they can do whatever they want. They can't get them over here anyway.
The market like shifts where they're seeing the results in their bottom line. They probably don't even care. They're like, whatever. That's cool. That's fun. But if they can't, like I said, if their EV sales are down and they're in the bean counter saying, wait a second, like our EVs aren't selling that great, but the other cars are. What are we doing wasting time with EVs? They're in the business to make money. They're not in the business to make cool cars. That's why Nissan is like, okay, Nissan's trying to get back into making some cool cars, but still, like, for a while there, they kind of ditched a lot of the cool stuff and then went straight to like boring SUVs. A lot of companies did, that whole small SUV, club is like a really popular niche of car. Like every manufacturer, especially like Kia, Hyundai, Ford, Chevy, they all have them. They have these like mid-sized small SUVs because why? Everybody
Even
buys
the big
them.
companies do. Lamborghini, Audi.
I don't know if I would consider a Lamborghini like their SUV.
Just that Urus though.
That is fast. I'm sure it's great, but
Urus is fast. Like it's literally like the choice of anybody that's like in that bracket or that world where they're like, I need an SUV, but I want the badge of a Lamborghini.
It is the cheapest Lambo you can buy though.
It is, yeah, it is.
So if you want to get that Lambo badge, but you don't want to spend like Lambo money, you want to get your foot in the door. That's probably what people do. They get into that. And I heard they're handled great. I'm sure they're great SUVs, but I'm saying like, I don't think a Lamborghini Urus compares to like a Kona of a Hyundai.
Oh no, and I think that mid crossover is like that like compact crossover kind of realm is such it's so close to just being just a hatchback at the end of the day that my mind was going to something bigger, like like the say like the Santa Fe or like the even like the Cayenne, like the Cayennes and the something that's like a little bit more of like that step up of like not compact SUVs but like mid-size SUVs, that my mind kind of goes there a little bit where again, like, the Q7 or I don't quite remember Audi's like terminology and everything, but they have a lot of companies have that mid-size range of SUVs just like plotted out. And it's been like that for a while.
Well, because they sell, man. They sell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Companies are going to make stuff that sells. And if the EVs are not selling, they're probably going to pull back. And that's got to be what it is. I mean, they got some cool stuff coming out there from China, but I mean, maybe they're like, well, we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll see what happens, and then they'll just steal their technology and make their own.
We'll do what we claim that they do all the time. We'll just,
right.
We'll just do that.
Or we'll say they stole our idea first. They made them, whatever. I don't know how this stuff. Point fingers. Everybody's pointing fingers to everybody. Well, Courage, man, this has been so fantastic talking about EVs. Encourages EV hot takes tonight, man.
Yeah, I haven't had my EV soapbox for a little while, so I figured I'd throw that in the mix.
I'm gonna get you a cool little plugged in like juice sound effect, like electric sound effects when they have you Courage's EV takes on the show. So hey, where can everybody find out all about you and your cool stuff, man?
Yeah, feel free. Absolutely. Check out the Driven Dad 22 on Instagram and YouTube. I don't have a lot of EV content, so you'll probably be pretty surprised about that. But nonetheless, feel free to check it out if you guys are interested.
Fantastic. You can find out everything about this show, all the links, all the cool stuff right there at coolcarswithchris.com. Links to everything will be in the show notes down below, and we will see you on the very next episode.